Hey y'all, welcome back to Mama's house, where we're eating good food, sharing good times, and we hope you enjoy your stay. Let's get to cooking.
Good morning, y'all. It is morning, very early in the morning, because I have to get up and get out into the garden early. And I thought I'd give you a garden tour. Um, just a very brief one, not a very detailed one, but enough for you to have a good feel for what is going on in my garden. Um, for those of you who don't know me, and this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Welcome to Mima's house. We are usually cooking over here, and I will still cook this morning, maybe later on today. I will do some cooking um, because I did some harvesting yesterday. Now, I will include the harvest um, clips that we took so that you can see what I harvested. But I did harvest some squash and I harvested some green beans, things like that. So, like I said, welcome. For those of you who are always here, thank you so much. You can tell my voice is getting a little better. God is still in the blessing business, and He is blessing me. So I hope that He's blessing you today. I'm going to grab my cup of coffee, and we're going to walk through the garden just a little bit so you can see what we got growing over here that we'll be cooking later on. So let's get to gardening.
Before we get into the full blown garden tour, let's take a look back at yesterday. Ari and I were out here in the garden and we did some harvesting. We harvested quite a few
I
things,
filmed this.
and I'm starting with the
Can you get
squash.
this?
I have
You
two
see this?
good sized squash on this plant that I'm going to go ahead and harvest because you'll be surprised at how much these two squash will feed the five of us. Now, Noah, you
Yay.
know it's not going to eat
Go on.
squash. We
But
will get something out of this squash, and I'll show you what I'm going to make a little later on. In the meanwhile, let's get downstairs to the two raised gardens and see what we got going on here. And let me give a shout out to Peepaw, who put this fence up so that the deer and all the other critters can stay outside and we can have our good crop. Now this first bed that I'm going to harvest some broccoli, is housing all of my cool weather crops. My brassica, the broccoli, some Brussels sprouts that didn't do too well, and my cabbage and some collard greens. This bed now that I'm in actually has those things that I planted from seed. These green beans, yellow squash, cucumber, and cabbage. Now I'm pulling up the what's left over of my romaine lettuce, and I had planted some onions in this bed, and you see they didn't do too well.
I'm going to remove all the onions because my onions should be bigger by now, and they're not. So I need this real estate for something else. And I'm going to transplant a zucchini squash and a couple of zucchini squashes in this spot. So I got the old um, romaine lettuce roots. They're no good now. They're dead. We've eaten romaine lettuce all summer pretty much, or all spring. And now I'm going to take these onions up and put down some squash. See, this feels like, look, see, they didn't get big as nothing. They rotted in the ground. These that these that I'm gonna do something with. Who is that calling me? They should have got much bigger by now, and they didn't.
Now the last thing we're going to harvest is my basil, and then we'll move back to the day that we actually started on, and that is to do our garden tour. But since it's the day before, I'm going to cook some dinner 'cause it's after work now and it's time for me to feed my family. So let's harvest the basil, then let's move to the next day.
Okay, we're going to start on the deck. And up on the banister on the top of my deck, the railing, I do have a couple of things that I like to sit there because it catches the sun. Um, right here, I've planted some muskmelon or some cantaloupe that I need to transplant now, and I think I'll transplant him down in the big garden because the big area is going to be transformed because I have some cool weather things out there. And of course, I have my mints and my basil and my dill. Um, all of those things are still doing well. It's been hot lately. I am in Virginia, and I garden in a 7B is the gardening. I don't know nothing too much about that, but I am coming to learn it. And that's one of the tomato plants that my sister Stella gave me. So I do have tomato plants up here on the deck. That's where all of my tomato plants are. I have another one there that she gave me. And then I have some squash plants. This is where I um, got some squash, harvested some squash yesterday. She likes that spot. There's a couple of plants in there, and they like it. And I'm glad they do. This is another plant that I'm going to transplant into the garden downstairs. And this is a zucchini. I think that's going to be a productive plant for me as well. This little one over here, I'm not real sure what's happening with him. She looks a little anemic. She's a zucchini. She's in a small pot that I'm going to move down into the big garden. You see the big garden down there, and I think you've been down there before, but we'll get a closer look in just a minute. Before we go down to the big garden, just wanted to show you um, some pepper plants that I have here, and they seem to be wanting to do well. I'm going to do a lot of transplanting. I think that they need to be moved as well, and I have a couple of 5-gallon buckets that I'm going to use. And of course, that's my lily. She is phasing out now. But here is a pot that I planted with the tomatoes. And these are Roma tomatoes. And they look like they're blooming. And I have actually some basil that I co-planted with that. I forget what you call it when you plant, companion planting. Um, and then here is my cherry tomatoes. I got a couple coming in. You see, I got a few here. So we're going to have some cherry tomatoes up on a salad somewhere. And my rosemary and let's see. This is a little tower that I bought from probably somewhere cheap, Temu or Amazon or somewhere. I didn't want a great big, those the big garden ones that they have. They cost a fortune. I may go ahead and get me one day. But I do have strawberries here and a couple of flowering plants. And I got some oregano and some basil, some Thai basil over on that side. There she is. And my strawberry plants look good. These are everberry strawberry plants. And hopefully they will bring me some berries. So now let's go on downstairs. Okay, so yesterday, while we were out in the garden, I did pull up those onions, and I think I got a couple more that I need to pull up. Um, and then these are some carrots. All of this stuff I sowed from seed. We'll see what those carrots do, since that's the first time I've ever planted carrots. And then, of course, we have all of the cucumbers and squash. I may thin those out, and my green beans. I harvested some off that the other day, and I harvested some yesterday. Here are my potato plants. Now, y'all, these potatoes came from, we'll see how they do. These potatoes came from some potatoes I had at the house. I had bought some organic potatoes, and you know, we're not big potato eaters. We like them, but I have no business with them. And so I planted these, and then something got in it and started ravaging through it, but it didn't look like they wanted the potatoes. They wanted something else that was down in the potatoes. And that's what I'm finding, y'all, is that little animals, little creatures like to get all in your stuff. Like something has gotten on this. And I did spray it so it doesn't look any worse for wear from yesterday. Um, but then all of this is cold weather, and it's getting really hot. Cold weather crops, the broccoli and the collards and the cabbage. So my heads of cabbage actually feel really good, and this one feels even better. It's nice and tight. So I may let that stay for a minute or so, but in the meanwhile, I think that all of this is going to have to get harvested and come up. I'm gonna have to do something with it because it's going to be too hot for it after a while, and they won't flourish. So y'all, you see what I got and what I'm working with. We're going to go in the kitchen later on today and do some cooking because for those of you who don't know, Mima is still a working mother. I do still go to work. I work from home. I am a registered nurse, and I have the best team of nurses to manage, and they are a great group of women. But in the meanwhile, I have some cooking to do in the evening and some gardening to do in the morning, and I'll bring y'all with me for that. Hey, y'all. So we're in the kitchen because we were outside earlier today. I have worked a whole day, and it's the end of the day, but I need to go ahead and cook. Now, I've already cooked some food for the family for them to eat and do, but this is for later on. And I have to do these things after work because, like I said, you know, I'm still a working mama. Anyway, so after work hours, here I am getting my squash casserole together. Remember, we had two squash that I pulled from my garden. So I'm going to use these two squash, some grated cheese, mild cheddar, some Ritz crackers, eggs, milk, onion, and now we'll use the onion from my garden as well, and probably slice up some other onion because I don't think this is going to be enough onion. Those little baby onions are going to be enough to make the flavor that we want in our squash casserole. So, in the meanwhile, you know that the description box will include all of the ingredients, and we'll get to cooking.
We're going to start this recipe by grating some cheese. Now, I am using some mild cheddar cheese, and I just want to grate it with my new little gadget that I showed you in another video previous to this one that I got off the TikTok shop. It is worth its weight in gold for me because I don't have to worry about doing this manually. It actually does it for me. So, and I don't have to pull out my food processor and all that stuff. So here I'm getting all the onions. I have cut up some of those onions and I used them in another recipe that you'll get a video for maybe next week. We'll get that edited and get it up so that you can see that where I use some of the broccoli. But I'm going to cut up these onions and get them all cleaned up and ready to get shaved so that they can go in with the squash. And I said that I was going to shave the onions. That's because I'm going to cut them very thinly using my mandolin. And so, girl, you're going to get me doing all of the things with all the gadgets for this one recipe. I hope you enjoy it. And if this is your first time here with me at Mima's house, welcome. I'm so glad you decided to join me. I like to do a little cooking, gardening, and travel over here at Mima's house. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can join me on all these adventures. Now, I'm going to go ahead and peel these onions, and these are the little onions that we harvested out of my garden yesterday. But we will go ahead and get those peeled and cleaned up, and I'll clean off my cutting board, and then I'll use my mandolin to get these sliced real thin. Once I get the onions sliced, I'll go ahead and get my squash sliced as well, using the same mandolin but on a different setting. I don't want it as thin as I'm going to cut the onion. So let's go ahead, put on some onion peeling music and some squash cutting music to enjoy while I get the work done. This one a little thicker. That was the bacon grease from the broccoli salad that I had made earlier that you'll see in another video. But I'm going to cook my squash and my onions in this bacon grease. Now, if you don't like bacon grease, don't cook with bacon grease. We like bacon grease because we like bacon over here. But you can use olive oil or avocado oil or whatever you'd like. All right, hold on. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my squash into the pan, and the pan is set on a medium high heat for right now. I will turn it down after the squash continues to cook a little. I want to caramelize that squash and the onion as much as I can. Don't want to burn it. I just want to caramelize it, give it some good flavor. And since I've given it a good turn, I'm going to go ahead and season it with a little bit of garlic salt. And we'll add more seasoning, some pepper, and that as we go along.
Oh, I wish you could smell it in here. That onion, that bacon. Don't it smell good? Yep. My camera girl said it smells good. I want to cook it long enough for the onions to caramelize, kinda get a good flavor on and a good sear on the squash, because it's going to cook more in the oven. Now, if you cut your squash too thick, it may be that you might need to spend a little bit more time on this part. And if you just like this part, don't even worry about taking it to the oven. Just eat this and be happy.
The squash is cooked to the tenderness that I want, and I've turned off the eye. I left it sitting there. It's okay for it to kind of sit on the heat for a little bit while I make the custard. I'm going to go ahead and make a egg and milk with the cheese custard to put in the pan for our squash casserole. Okay, now the custard is done. Let's go ahead and in our bowl, in our glass container rather, I'm going to go ahead and put our squash. I don't have to spray this baking dish because the squash already has enough oil in it. And then we'll add once we put this into the bottom, we'll go ahead and add our custard. Before I add the custard, I want to add some of the cheese that I already have shredded. And y'all know about my shredding machine that I got from the TikTok shop. If I've said that 15 times, I've not said it at all. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this custard now put on because the squash is in, the cheese is in. It's time for the custard. The custard should cover up all of the squash.
I got a little thing of Ritz crackers here. Can you see that? That I'm going to, can you see my cheese? That we're going to put on the top.
I'm going to mix it up with the cheese. Just to give it a crunch on top. Look at that. Baby. So when your squash crop comes in, and I know it's going to come in because I know if you planted it, it'll do. But when it comes in, go in and make you some squash casserole. Let's get this in the oven. Okay, so the squash is in a 350-degree oven, and it's going to bake probably for 30 to 45 minutes until the custard is set. In the meanwhile, I'm going to clean up my kitchen, let my squash bake, and we'll be back to test that. I hope you enjoyed the garden tour. Now, it has been about 25 minutes, so watch your oven to make sure that if you look in and you see that your custard is puffed up, is ready to come out, still jiggly on the center, is perfect. So, this is ready. I've let it cool now for about 30 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and give this a taste test. Okay, let's give this a taste test. That's good eating. And just to think, that's squash that came out of my garden. I can taste the onion, the cheese, and the crackers really make it delicious. The squash is nice and tender, but not squishy. And it's just delicious. So I'm glad that you joined me on my tour today. I'm glad that you joined me while I cooked. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. Y'all be blessed. Bye. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked the content. And I'll always love your comments. So go ahead and put a comment in and subscribe if you haven't already. Be blessed. Bye.